All right. Back by popular demand. The why of Web3. Web3 in my mind started as a radical experiment several years ago. And so my first question is, what is the state of that radical experiment? Is it diluted? Is it healthy? Does it need some spice?
I have an opinion.
All right.
I think, in a funny way, there's sides you can take to this in any case, right? Like, it's great for everybody involved that a lot of money came into the space insofar as funding their work, insofar as funding all this research and these projects and the occasional party, But I do feel like the massive influx of particularly large investor capital, and again, I'm sorry to keep dunking on VCs like this, but I feel like it was very corrosive to the why. Because my perspective is that at the end of the day, Web3 is for everyone, right? And I think it's important that we keep that in mind. And when we say everyone, we don't just mean people with money, and I mean companies with money, people with a lot of money, whoever it may be, just money, 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 governance tokens, that kind of thing. So I do worry about where we are.
Jose?
In my opinion, I share a similar thought as him. So we originally, or not originally, let's go back to 2018, 2019, 2020. We saw a big highlight on Web3, on crypto, on all of what was going on. And like you well said, all of that capital influx into this space just confirmed or doubled down on a lot of the existing things that were already there. And we started seeing a lot of copycats or forks, how they call it in Web3, which are not bad at all. But if we're talking about innovation per se, it did make innovation kind of like stagnate a little bit. But unironically, it seems like during the bear market that we have been seeing lately, a lot of capital have left, a lot of users have left, but builders have stayed. And this is when builders have been working the hardest, at least that I've seen, because they're actually trying to come up with useful products that can be used not only to make money, but to solve problems in different societies, in different regions. And that's what will bring back. I mean, it's going to be a cycle. We're going to see this a lot of times. But I think right now, during this bear market, is where we're actually seeing a lot of innovation. And once the capital flows in, we'll likely see some type of slowdown. But that's just how the cycle works. And right now, I'm more bullish on innovation in the space than I've ever been, to be honest.
Okay. Thanks.
Then I think maybe I'm the optimistic one in this stage. So yeah, actually from my point, I think, so first, there is already some very proved to be very successful application in Web3 world, like DeFi. And I think that's the base for everything because this industry has proved to be profitable. I think this is very important. So you can see there is more and more devs, they are coming into this industry to build some real apps for this, for the Web3 world. And then I think now, currently, I think there is, I would say, a low area because of the bull market and because of actually we are waiting for the next hype of the Web3 world. So, and in my point, I think that the most important features of the next hype of the Web3 world is about fun. Because we already have many talented devs and project owners in this industry. But the problem is that actually we need to attract more and more end users to this. Actually, we are attracting people that is already very familiar with these Web2 services to the Web3 world. So actually, we cannot just tell them, okay, just try to use this, you will get some rewards token, which will be maybe high rocketing one day, so you can get the profits. It's not the way to attract normal person to this ecosystem. Instead, actually, all these apps we are building must be fun themselves. So all these Web3 users. So I think before to build some Web3 apps, they must be fun apps themselves. And I think we have observed many interesting like I would say candidates there. So for example, like the the Web3 social graph, which is very important. I'm not sure whether like some of you guys have tried like the Lens, like the Farcasters or like the previous Frentech. And for example, Lens has just announced their like Lens V2. And I think because at the first version it's quite, I would say, simple to me. For example, it's just like Twitter, but you can only tweet like with some figures, with normal text. But I think, for example, in this version, they have some extra things. For example, you can connect some smart contract to one post. Then if some of your followers is interested, for example, you can directly click that post to do something on-chain. So I think this is I would say, the proper way to really get more people into the Web3 world. And personally, I'm still very optimistic about this. Yeah.
It's your turn.
Well, first of all, I'm curious about like specific examples, not to defend VCs, but I think I'm so traumatized from my experience working at a direct-to-consumer startup and that dynamic with VCs that this feels so refreshing. And I think that the power is constantly shifting in Web3 such that, you know, of course, not everyone is a good actor, but I think, you know, DFG being a good example, like it's potentially a more like collaborative relationship in some instances. But you know, I didn't take it personally because I'm a marketer, so I don't really care. But I think as a Latin woman, we need spice because I think we always need more spice. You know, it's on brand for me. But you know, like I come to these things and I think it's great, and to your point, like there's so many phenomenal, brilliant minds, and we have these conversations, but you know, we need to talk to a lot more people, and I know that's like what everyone just says again and again and again, but I feel like we're not acknowledging enough how people have incredibly short attention spans and like are going to give you, you know, 5 seconds of their time, and they're, you know, we say you have to put in the work to do the research and you need to learn by trying and doing, and I just think until we start to solve problems that don't put such an onus on the user, you know, we're not going to be there yet. But all of that to say that we're getting there, I guess. Just who knows when.
Okay. Thank you, Max.
So what was the question again? I mean, listening very carefully to a point where I don't remember.
The question was, is the original, you know, radical impulse of Web3 still vibrant, or is it getting diluted? Is it getting, you know, less bright?
Yeah. Actually, like again, like I said, I'm actually like a hardcore like crypto anarchist kind of person, and like recent years, we've seen a lot of, and they're gonna come out every year. You know, some people from X Google or X whatever, and they build essentially a centralized system, and there's a lot of VC backing. And it's great. It's great. And to a point where I see, you know, in China, there's a lot of like cloud hosting events, and also in the U.S., like Amazon, they do a lot of like they come in and say, hey, you know, let's do a hackathon together where I give you a grant. Like if you're hosting all of your nodes on, like shout out to Amazon though, like, but it's a centralized entity. So and I don't know, I just really care a lot about like decentralization. Essentially, it's just censorship resistant for me. So, and I would, so like right off the bat with every founder, I would go, hey, look, you want to get rich, your opportunities, that's fine. Do you want to make a structural zero-sum game, you know, or an unstructured zero-sum game, you know, AMPL, FT, let's just get it straight off the bat. Like, I can help you do it, I have a lot of experience. And then they go, yeah, you know, and I try to separate them. And there's a few of them that are like still want to make something great, and I choose to work with them. So this is just my taste. I hope that I succeed one day, like with these founders.
I guess I just want to maybe clarify or walk back my comment a little bit. I'm not just talking about VCs when I talk about money. I really just mean capital in a very general sense. Just massive amounts of money attracts a lot of people for reasons that are not necessarily aligned with whatever the work you might be doing. So just last point that I think is worth mentioning, but I think it did play a role in let's say the bad look that we get from a lot of the public right now has a lot to do with the frenzy and the fact that, you know, there wasn't really a lot of quality control.
So, Max, why are you here? Like,
So, I'm pretty fresh here, actually. I was a molecular biologist and a biochemist working in academia for 4 or 5 years. And kind of the thing that kept bothering me about doing science, which is fascinating work and, you know, interesting, not particularly financially rewarding, but, you know, the problems that I kept seeing were outside my window, right? I look out at society, I see problems. All these platforms that are, you know, monetizing their users get nothing back. And particularly when I cared about so many of these creators, these musicians, YouTubers, all these kind of things that just don't get commensurate value. And I saw Web3 and I thought, wow, you could actually do a lot of good in the world with this. So that really brought me in very quickly. And despite having, you know, the last time that I meaningfully wrote code, I wrote some like bioinformatics stuff in my other career, but the last time that I really wrote like a full-blown code project was actually I was in middle school at the time, and it's been a fun learning process, learning the modern JavaScript stack. Let me tell you what. But that's my story.
Thanks. So, Shelvin, how do you think we solve this? How do we maintain the original principles of Web3 while enabling the growth that's necessary? Growth in applications, growth in capital, growth in developers?
From my side, because actually we are working as a dev-oriented company, because so actually from my side, actually most of my focus is on how to improve like the infrastructure. Yeah, because just thinking of that, like because in the previous day when we only have like the smart contract, we only have the Ethereum. Actually, the things we can do is very limited. So actually, you need to put every all the assets like on chain. So you need to usually the dApps is quite simple. So just someone they maybe like fork from some smart contract template to build their own ERC20 token, and they build a UI to serve their users, and that's it. So this is how the early stage the apps looks like. So, and since it's so simple, actually the capability of that things is really limited. So, actually the infrastructure just limits the creation of some complicated apps, and to further limits what kind of the problem that can be solved. So from my side, I think now we can see the involvement of the infrastructure. So on one side, for example, now you have so many chains, you have Ethereum, you have polygons, so people try to how to lower the gas fee, how to increase the through output, and recently we can also see there is a lot of roll up as a service project. Yeah, take care. Yeah, and for example, when the wide adoption of roll up as a service is really achieved, then each dApps is kind of hosting one blockchain themselves. And now it's so easy that, for example, if you are using such service, to create a blockchain from the scratch usually take only 10 minutes to do so. So you can see the evolution of the creation tools, you can make the impossible things possible. Yeah.
I have a question. So, you know, upholding these foundational principles of Web3, something that we always say to founders that I'm seeing more and more is, you know, just talk to your customer, talk to your user, use that feedback, just build for, find product market fit, right? It's pretty basic, which, you know, wasn't necessarily something that people were building for in the early days for whatever various reasons. But as people go towards that, and as we get bigger and bigger, and the demands of the user, I mean, I guess this is where I'm a skeptic, not skeptic, but pessimistic, in that the demands of the user will demand convenience and ease, and that might come up against the foundational principles that we all believe in, but it feels like the opportunity is so large that we will just have to deal with that when it comes. And I don't know if that's like too existential of like a question, but what happens then? Because inevitably that's going to happen.
So, responding to that question, I believe it's also about what is that foundational belief that we are looking for. Like some people might be thinking of decentralization, some other people might be thinking about problem solving specifically. And you mentioned that in the early days there might have not been as many like product market fit projects. I would politely disagree there because in my opinion, the most useful product, or one of the most useful products in crypto right now, are stablecoins. Stablecoins were out there like pretty early. They were the first real-world asset on chain, and we have been seeing a lot of usage and a lot of problem solving. Like if we go, like I'm personally from Latin America. If you go back to Argentina, for example, in Argentina is where some of the best stablecoin developers are, and where most of the stablecoin, well, I'm not sure if most of the usage, but in terms of percentage or per capita, like, oof, like a lot of people use stablecoins because whenever you're dealing with real life problems like inflation, for example, or not being able to have savings, stablecoins actually become a useful alternative. You don't have to like risk yourself carrying like big bands and try to like change it in the street. You can actually go through platforms like Lemon in Argentina and put those funds in dollars and have savings. So that is changing the quality of life of a lot of people. It's been doing it for a long time, and it's definitely just the beginning, but I believe that was one of the best examples of product market fit that we've seen, and yes, the adoption of it will come alongside the regulatory spectrum as well. But I do believe that we're seeing usage, and I believe that one of the ways of bringing people into fun applications like you were mentioning is also by enabling that seamless transition or seamless transfers from your real life money or like dollars, like fiat, to crypto or stable coins, and then to these platforms that, like you well said, they're going to be fun and they're going to bring users. But without users being able to get to the blockchain, it's going to be very difficult for users to hop on these platforms.
So what would you say to Web3 projects to solve this problem? What's your advice?
I don't know. Someone else have an answer?
Max?
I mean, I've talked a lot, so if anybody else wants to chime in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have an answer? Okay. Repeat the question one time, though, because I do...
Well, so for Web3 projects, what advice?
What do you do? Okay. Be very mindful with what you are giving your investors. And I mean, this goes both ways. Investors, too, be mindful of what your projects are giving you. This is how a lot of projects are able to just rug people, because they have a pre-sale token and they can just run away with it. They have no obligation to anybody. Not good. At the same time, I think that, if you do go the other way and you're trying to contribute to an open ecosystem, you want to maintain a good deal of control, or at least a good deal of honest community control. Not capital control, but control by the people that you want using your product. This is kind of the vision of like consumer governance on these apps, right? It's, what would you call it? Like, rather than just your CEO or your employees, but also your customers have a say in what you do. And I think that that's kind of the...
A vision alignment,
yes.
maybe?
Yes.
Thank you. Your answer?
Well, no, I was just thinking of like old school examples, like Patagonia is I'm a brand person, right? Patagonia is my favorite brand. That's a fantastic example of a founder who went, totally pivoted his business and was able to kind of persevere. But that's the needle in the haystack. So that's not necessarily advice that you can give a founder, like stick to your guns, like uphold your principles. But I think that's our responsibility as investors then to you're buying the vision, you're not buying the users, that you're, and that's what sets, I think, a lot of Web3 investors apart from investors that I've crossed paths with in the past. You know, that and especially where we are, like, we're not like, where is the return in year 1, year 2, year 3? It's like, how are you, and you just said this earlier, how are you building for the ecosystem? How is what your project contributing to, 10 other projects? So.
Yeah, so basically for me, the question really comes down to their taste and their incentives, really. So like I have a sensor that smells bullshit like really fast, because I started off in a bear market. Actually, it was 2018, and I built a lot of projects where essentially there's some sort of there's some tokenomics incentive structure setting in, and they're gonna claim there's something else, there's social fi, this and that, and actually they're popping up recently too. So I would always ask the founders, like, of course you want to get rich, but is there anything else that you also care that we can probably share interest? And that would be like, I'm just I want to wake up every day and I go, I'm gonna this is meaningful. This is something that I can tell to my grandson one day, and I think it's kind of cool. And
I had just a thought just now, but when I think about my experiences, and I've had a very diverse life in terms of the class of, the financial means of the people who I've met, I think that there are a lot of rich people in the world who would give up almost all of their money to have a community that they really cared about. So I think that, I'm not suggesting you do so, but just a thought, right? Like, I don't think money is the main thing in life for anybody, really.
Well, thank you. We are out of time, and thank you for listening.